What a serendipitous moment for Suns fans. A game on St. Patrick's Day. It's socially acceptable for you to get blackout drunk while you watch this team. Psychos and sickos unite for a St. Patty's Day edition of the PHNX Suns pregame show, brought to you by Gila River Resorts and Casinos. You do you at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. Visit playatgila.com for more details. I'm Eric. I know I might look like it, but I'm not Irish. That's Steven, who I just confirmed before the show, also not Irish. Noah, I'm not sure. Are you Irish?
I think a little bit.
There's a little bit of Irish behind the Mac, making all the magic happen. But of course, the most important people in the chat, all of you who are here, and those of you who somehow find pregame not live, we appreciate every single one of you. Make sure you hit that like button, just like Matthew said. Smart guy that Matthew is. Hit that subscribe button, turn notifications on, and of course, we'll be back for a post-game show. Suns Raptors tonight
on St. Patrick's Day. We're the ones that are lucky.
Wow.
To have all of these people that always tap in with us.
That was beautiful. You held your hand out. I'm like, is he trying to hold my hand? I'm like, what's going on here?
Save that for Noah.
Hey, you did reach out with your left hand. That's all I'm saying. Listen, we have a lot to get into today. Of course, we'll have Steven's Keys. We're going to look at the play-in/playoff standings. We're going to preview this game, but it is hard to talk about anything other than Bradley Beal right now because Coach Mike Budenholzer, in pregame media availability, gave an update on Bradley Beal, said he's out 1 week with a left hamstring strain. He also gave an update on Grayson Allen. Let's take a look at what he had to say.
Just start with Grayson. I think we're still, hopeful. We'll see, how he does each day, continue to, get his rehab and hopefully make progress. Brad will be out a week. We'll reevaluate him in 1 week. He had an MRI today, and we'll be hopeful that this next week goes well and reevaluate him then.
Again, not the best news. Not easy to receive that news, especially considering the margin for error that's non-existent for the team, the way that they need Bradley Beal, but when you make the bed that you have to lay in, these adversity moments hit differently, especially if Grayson's out in addition to Beal being out.
Yeah, and Grayson is out. And I'm a little surprised with how long Grayson has been out. But let's just take a quick look at the injury report, and then we'll dive into some more Bradley Beal conversation just to paint a whole picture on tonight. Nick Richards, Monte Morris, and Cody Martin, all available. Beal and Allen are out. Brandon Ingram, available.
Nah,
is that true?
He's out.
I'm like, that's not true. I'm like,
he
no.
hasn't, for anybody that doesn't know, he hasn't
I was
played
about to say,
game.
I'm like, he was just so caught off guard. I was like, what are we talking about?
He hasn't played yet for Toronto.
That's the nastiest ankle sprain of all time. More like a tank sprain. RJ Barrett also out. Jakob Portal out. Grady Dick out. Jacoby Walter out as well. But let's talk about Bradley Beal because obviously on yesterday's postgame show, you and Gerald and I had a pretty lengthy debate that we clipped for the people here on YouTube. We are on two opposite sides of this, and we have been. And I was team shut Bradley Beal down for multiple reasons, but my main reason being since he is not technically helping you tremendously when he's on the court. I know what in theory he brings, but he keeps on dealing with these minor injuries and they're starting to add up. Shutting him down and letting his body rest doesn't seem like the worst thing in the world. We're getting this in a little microcosm right now in the form of a week before reevaluation, Steven.
And I never disagree with that part of it as far as resting him or shutting him down with the perspective of letting him get fully healthy. But my issue with it and my rebuttal has always been that the team just needs him too much, even if the numbers suggest they might be better without him. Some of those numbers are also because players with them on the court haven't been playing that well. And the ecosystem that they're all coexisting in has not been the most conducive to an efficient or effective offense, which is what this team was built to be. So the numbers are going to look a certain way because of that. But to your point, they do look better without him. So we'll see what they do with that in this stretch of games that's as important as any other stretch, which we've said a few times this season already.
Yeah. Can I give you a hypothetical situation here? I'm gonna pull up the Suns schedule real quick, and now that I'm doing it on the fly, I'm doing a terrible job of pulling it up quickly. Okay, so a week from today, next Monday, they play the Milwaukee Bucks. So let's assume that Bradley Beal is out against Toronto, Chicago, Cleveland, and Milwaukee. Hypothetically, let's say the Suns win 3 out of 4 here, including a win over a Cleveland or a Milwaukee team. Then you face Boston, Minnesota, Houston, Milwaukee. But you have a gauntlet after that. If the team looks better and the results are better without Bradley Beal over the next week, would you be willing to reconsider shutting him down for the rest of the season? Because while he may have healed from that injury, we know that usually another one follows.
No, only because you still need his presence as whether it be him initiating offense. Because if it's not Bradley Beal, if it's not Devin Booker, if we're considering Beal out, if it's not Devin Booker, Grayson Allen, we've seen have high variance when he does initiate offense. Has not been effective for the team. Like, who else can you effectively rely on, especially if Tyus Jones has been removed from the starting lineup? Are you going to now go from having it be Devin Booker that's an asset to initiate offense to now overburdening him or overtasking him? Are you going to be okay with those results? Because we've seen when he has to play full-time point guard, the assists are still effective because he's an advantage creator. But the efficiency on assist to turnover ratio and getting you into the offense and tempo and pace and cadence has not necessarily sustained. So it's little things, dynamics like that. There's more layers to that than just that. But I feel like that's a relevant piece to his dynamic that I feel like he brings to the table.
I think if the team is just winning without him, and I think the team's in an ugly position with or without him. Booker initiating being a full-time point guard is not what you want him to do. It still might be your best option, right? We don't want Bradley Beal to come in and be the main initiator when he is here. I think if the results speak for themselves over the next week, which, again, I'm not saying they will. It's not like Sean was laughing at 3 out of 4. Like, obviously, this is a team that hasn't won back-to-back games since January 27th. I know none of you have heard that before. But if the results speak for themselves in the position that you're in, and we'll take a look at playoff standings here in a second, I just think that you need to stick with what's working, and what isn't working at this point is whatever's going on with Bradley Beal. Now, Coach Budenholzer was asked about using guys like Cody Martin, Ryan Dunn, in replacement with Bradley Beal and Grayson Allen out.
Yeah, no, I think, again, encouraged by how Cody played. I think the timing for that could be helpful. Everybody, we're going to probably need a little bit more, give other people opportunities. So, but Cody and Ryan are definitely 2 of those guys.
I maintain that regardless of if the team is fully healthy or if they're factioned off because of injuries or whatever, those 2 need to play at least 15 minutes apiece. Point of attack defense in general on the perimeter, regardless of if it's at the point of attack or navigating screens or on the wing, you need it. Those 2 bring it to lengths that no one else on the team can replicate. And they do so at a size and stature that brings some balance between your front court pieces, the KDs, the Richards, the Plumlees, and the Bookers and the Beals and the Allens. They bring a balance and height in addition to a defensive mindset, that blue-collarness, if you will.
Yeah, and against a Toronto team that is made up of Masai Ujiri loves his wings. Loves his wings.
They might as well call him Wingstop for real.
For real. No free ads, though. No. But I really liked what I saw out of Cody in limited minutes. Of course, you have to temper your expectations. When I say I really liked what I saw out of him, I'm not saying start him. I'm not saying give him 20, 25, 30 minutes tonight in Grayson Allen and Bradley Beal's absence, but I want him thrown out there. I want him there in spurts. And I know that we want one or the other because offensively, Dunn and Martin together doesn't really work. But I think if you're going to try that out a little bit, if you're going to do it, it's going to be in these next 2 games against Toronto and Chicago.
It should be. That's where you start to lay a foundation for something to build off of. You have no margin for error, and defense has been your biggest Achilles heel. Solve the defense, at least to a league average capacity, the team looks like a completely different one.
Would you like to guess the starting lineup tonight?
I know the front court is the same with KD, Nick Richards, and Ryan Dunn. Okay. Obviously, Devin Booker starting.
Yeah.
Who's the 5th? Is Royse starting tonight?
No.
Cody Martin starting tonight?
No.
Tyus Jones?
No.
All right, I'm out of options.
No, you're not.
Bull?
No.
What in the world?
Colin
Really?
Gillespie,
Wow.
starting point guard for your Phoenix Suns. You're surprised? How does that make you feel?
I'll give Bud that this aligns with the way that his rotation has gone the last couple of games. We've seen Colin come in, check into the game in the first quarter at the end before Tyus Jones does. So in alignment with the rotation, at least there's some consistency there. If that's the premise that you're operating off of, I can't bat an eye at it. And I will say that Colin has played hard. He's played in a way that you need from that point guard position in particular. My question is going to be, though, for you.
For me.
Is his offense going to be good enough to warrant him starting?
I mean, usually, like in normal circumstances, I don't know. Yeah. But I'm not really worried about offense right now, especially not against this Toronto team.
And the reason why I'm asking it is because if you have Dunn already that's out there, and we've talked about the way that teams guard him, that's going to take on a different effect if you have another player that can, you feel me? I feel like offensively, and that's not why I'm saying he shouldn't start. I'm just talking out loud as far as what might be a response, a chain reaction to that.
Yeah, I mean, I also think that part of this is that Tyus Jones in his current role, even coming in behind Colin, it might have lit a little fire under his ass because he's been shooting the lights out of the ball, and you can keep him consistently coming off the bench, hopefully not mess up his rhythm, and you don't need somebody to come in and fire away deep from three with Durant and Booker, who have been leaving some to be desired on the offensive end. Yeah. Now it's clear. Right? Yeah. Nick Richards, Ryan Dunn, Colin Gillespie around Kevin Durant and Devin Booker. That is defense, that is hustle, that is rebounding. Some offensive capabilities between those other three. But the reality is all of the responsibility to drive that offense, to run that offense, you have no choice but to go through Kevin Durant and Devin Booker. Mike Budenholzer might have just backed his way into running, hopefully the most, I want to say efficient, but the offense that makes the most sense as far as scheme and approach with this starting lineup.
I don't agree with that fully, and I'll say that because with playing with Devin Booker and Kevin Durant on offense, there's a requisite to make shots, especially the types of shots that they create. And that's why I asked the question about Colin that I did. I don't disagree with him starting in this scenario because Grayson's not available in addition to Beal. But I would rather see someone that I think you could trust more in terms of knocking down the shots that are created to keep the offense afloat, but also somebody that provides a little bit more size. That's kind of why I mentioned Royce before I even got to thinking about
I'm shocked.
Colin.
I would have thought they would have started Royce basically at the 2.
Yeah, give it. Yeah. I hear you, especially if he's out there with Ryan Dunn. Yeah.
I'm shocked to see Gillespie. I'm excited to see him.
I say all of that, but I also say I love that he's earned this opportunity because he's very much done that. No different than Ryan Dunn has.
Yeah, he's earned a spot in the rotation for sure. And 100%. You know what, man? Like credit to Coach Budenholzer. I mean, obviously, 100%. I have been very, very critical. This does not change my mind for the long-term outlook of things because it's too little too late for me.
But recently, though, for sure.
Recently he's been making the right calls. Now, some of that's been his hand forced with injuries, but at the same time, I like what he's doing. Let's see if it pays off. Speaking of Coach, we have a super chat from Art, and let's take a look at that real quick before we keep it going. Says, if we want to win, Mike Budenholzer and Devin Booker have to step up. Oh, wait, doesn't matter because we have the hardest remainder schedule of the season. Why?
Yeah,
I mean, that means winning tonight is more important.
It is. All of these games are equally as important as the one that's following it in accordance with the schedule. Got to handle your business since it's in front of you and set the tone, hopefully, to build off of in the game that's to come.
Well, I believe that is one of your keys, is it not?
It is one of my keys.
Let's take a look at those keys.
Let's talk about it. First one is to set a much better tone
than being tripled up in the first quarter?
Than to look processless on offense and listless on defense, as they did to start that game against the Lakers on Sunday. Unacceptable. Can't win. It's non-negotiable at this moment in the season. Number 2, be disciplined with your closeouts. Because though Toronto has a lot of athletes, a lot of those athletes are not the type that warrant closeouts as if they're Klay Thompson or Steph Curry. Meaning that you should be getting out to them, but you should be able to get out to them in a manner that doesn't put you in compromise so now they can get a paint touch and are getting downhill time after time after time. think starting Ryan Dunn helps a bit with that. Everybody else has to be solid in the defensive shell with there too. And then the last one, box out and take care of the ball. Last time we saw them get knocked upside the head by the Toronto Raptors in Toronto in surprising fashion because they didn't take care of the basketball. This team is full of young athletes that love to play in the open court. You take that diet away from their offensive process and force them to play in the half court, you can make things really tough for them to put the ball in the basket. They're without RJ Barrett and Brandon Ingram, in addition to other players that matter to them putting the ball in the basket. So yeah, that's it for me.
Well, and all those keys, when you look at those, you can realistically see somebody like Colin Gillespie helping with all of that. He sets a tone with his effort on the defensive end. He closes out. He's one of the few guys that is sprinting across the court.
Absolutely.
When there's miscommunication, which there's way more of than there needs to be, but when there's miscommunication, he's the one who makes up for it. Hopefully, like you said, the offense can be there as well, but he should be getting some wide open shots. I feel like there's going to be a lot of attention, lots of double teams, right? With Darko Rajakovic and the Toronto Raptors and the type of length that they still have, minus Grady Dick, minus Brandon Ingram, right? They still have a lot of different tools, and they're going to try to throw that at the Suns. Plus, this is a team that's probably coming into tonight relatively confident, as most teams are against the Suns in general after watching what happened against the Lakers. But need I remind you, I know I don't, but the last time these two teams squared off, the Raptors basically smelled blood at the end of the game and stepped on the Suns' throat, hit like 7 threes in 15 seconds and blew them out of the building. So this is a revenge game for Phoenix, but also this is a chance for a tanking Toronto team to sweep the highest paid team in the league.
Yeah, if anybody that's familiar with Friday, if you culture it in the black community, they got their chain snatched. They got their chain snatched. Genuinely, they did. The turnovers, the 3-pointers, upside the head, time after time after time. Exactly. And to that point is why I mentioned they have to take care of the ball. But also, even with the injuries that we've seen the Raptors sustain over the last 2-3 weeks, do you know where they rank in terms of defense the last couple of weeks?
I don't. I'm going to be honest with you.
If I told you they ranked second, would you say I was bluffing, or you think
No,
I
think that if you brought that up, that you'd be telling the truth. But I would say that's insane, and I wouldn't have guessed that.
And to that point, even without Jakob Poeltl in the lineup, there are depths of defensive versatility, and they have the template for defense that we've seen the Suns struggle against. A bunch of young athletes that play physical, they extend pickup points, they play multiple defenses, and they can play that way across multiple lineups.
So a young athletic team that plays a bunch of different ways, puts pressure on the defensive end, and tries really hard.
Yes.
What could possibly go wrong?
Yes. So that's why I'm prefacing everything to come with that. I should have probably said that before the keys, but
no, I mean,
yes.
listen, this is a bad Toronto team. This is a bad Suns team at this point. Like you still have to prove it. These are your 2 easiest games remaining for the rest of the year. Tonight against Toronto, Wednesday against Chicago, Steven's favorite team. You need to take care of business, even if it hurts Steven's feelings. I got to get that one in early. Let's take a look at our score predictions for tonight's game. The Suns need to get it done. We all say they will, but none of us very confident. Espo going with the classic Espo shrug. Suns by I'm going Suns by 1. Gerald, Suns by 4. Steven, most confident again. Suns by 5.
Yeah, not too confident because it's still only a 2-possession game. But it's at 5 because the Suns typically play games that are in the clutch.
Yeah.
Whether they should be or not.
Most single-digit games in the NBA this season.
And that's my reasoning why I can't go past 5 on these predictions.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
That's exactly why. And then, in addition to that, again, the way that Toronto's defending, I feel like they can chip away at the Suns' scoring prowess some. I think the Suns should score enough, which is why I have them winning, but there it is. It's a tight box they're operating in right now.
Oh, it is definitely. The walls are closing in on the Phoenix Suns. Let's just go ahead and take a look at the push for the playoffs presented by our friends over at All Pro Shade Concepts. But of course, I have renamed it the push for the play-in, aka the push me off a cliff, because this is downright depressing. The Suns unable to gain any ground on the Mavericks despite the Mavs losing to the lowly Philadelphia 76ers. I'm not even going to list off all the teams. We know the only thing we care about is the 9th seed, the 10th seed, the 11th seed, and the 12th seed, which, by the way, Portland has moved back into that 12th seed, only 2 games behind Phoenix. So not completely out of it. Tied with San Antonio there. So you have 2 teams that are technically on your ass. But let's look forward. Suns are a game and a half outside of the Mavericks, and they are 3 games outside of the Kings for the 9th seed. These 2 games, Steven, I know you call them gotta have it, right? I don't think there's any more gotta have it than tonight, and that frightens me.
Yeah, every game the rest of the season, because of the constraints of the play-in and where they are in respect to the teams ahead of them, is very much got to have it. Got to have all of these. Are they going to win them all? We know that they're not. Are they going to lose them all? That remains to be seen. So they all got to have it, though, and that should be met with a certain urgency that we did not see until basically halftime or the second half of that game against the Lakers last night or yesterday. Rather.
So you asked me if I knew what the Raptors rated in defense. I didn't. Let me put you on the spot.
Talk to me.
Do you know what the Phoenix Suns away record is this season? I'll tell you this. They've played 36 away games. And obviously they're home tonight. Yeah. But this is something that I'm looking at. I'm like, uh-oh.
What if they won like 9 games on the road this season?
They are 12-24.
Okay. That tracks with where I thought.
Yeah. Obviously that doesn't matter. Like they're 19-13 at home. Woo-hoo.
Doubled up the losses.
But 12-4 away for this team. My Lord, this team is hot garbage.
Yeah.
Basura. All right, let's take a look at the line presented by our friends over at Bet365. The Suns are massive favorites tonight. So massive, we only wanted to look at it for half of a second. -400 on the money line, -9 on the spread. Are you drunk for St. Patrick's Day? You said you had a little Irish in you. You know it? You have a couple drinks already?
No.
Couple green beers?
No.
No? I mean, that makes it even worse then. You know that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Raptors +320 on the money line, +9 on the spread. I mean, that's a massive spread, Steven.
That's insane, yeah. But with the injuries that the Raptors see and the offense being hard for them to come by if they're not playing off of turnovers, I understand it. But these are the Phoenix Suns that we're talking about yet and still.
They haven't earned being nearly double-digit point favorites.
I would have said being like a 4 or 3 or 2.5 points. Yeah, I would have been more aligned with that than 9, but they're in the business of making money, so.
I mean, this is a team that was just absolutely belittled on national television yesterday for not even caring, getting compared to teams that treat playing basketball like doing your chores, right? And tonight, for good teams, let's make it clear, this team is not a good team, but for good teams, nights like tonight are the chores, right? These are the nights that you overlook and you look ahead, especially when on the other side of Toronto and Chicago. Like I mentioned, Cleveland, Milwaukee, Boston, Minnesota, who's playing great, Houston, Milwaukee again, Boston again, New York, Golden State, Oklahoma City. You don't get a quote-unquote break until your second to last game of the season against San Antonio on Friday, April 11th. That is the next time you're going to be facing an under 500 team after Wednesday.
All those teams you're going up against are top 5 at worst in their respective conferences. So, again, the urgency should be at a certain level that we did not see yesterday until the second half, where they had to work to make up for the deficit that they were up against.
And I do need to see that urgency from the Stars, right?
It starts with them. They have to. Those two have to set the tone.
Especially
Devin Booker and Kevin Durant have answered and voluntarily answered questions with saying that we have to set a better tone. Devin Booker said that starts with me. KD said that starts with me. You got to do it. You have to, especially with this starting lineup that you're going with right now.
Yeah. Like, this is the thing, right? Wait, I just had a crazy thought, crazy conspiracy theory. Let me put on the Espo tinfoil hat. You know how Katie said earlier when he was talking about on the Draymond Green show, the fact that whatever team he goes to has to gut themselves to trade for him. What if for the end of the season, Kevin Durant tanks his trade value so that the team that he gets traded to doesn't have to trade as much to get him, therefore is in a better spot to win when he gets there? The silence is deafening.
I got no comment.
I mean,
on that.
That's massive tinfoil.
There's been a lot of Espo, that's massive tinfoil.
There's been a lot of Kevin Durant talk on the timeline recently. Some fires have been stoked when it comes to that, and I think that I'll be careful here. I think there's some validity to the fact that Kevin Durant does need to take it on himself to not try harder, but it hasn't felt like we've seen Kevin Durant take over a game, show up and put his stamp on it in a couple of games. And this is, like I said, this is a must win. This is more or less do or die because Anthony Davis might be coming back for the Dallas Mavericks. Got assigned to the G League for all of 2 hours today and then recalled. And the plan is for him to play again before the end of the season. You know, your window and your door might be closing quickly.
Yeah. I think we talked about this before with KD all-time great scorer by my eye, the most pure, the best, most pure, most efficient scorer in NBA history. Lacks absolutely nothing on the offensive end of the court. But my issue with sometimes the way people look at him offensively, he doesn't have that volume shooter, volume scorers type of approach. He's for as great of an offensive engine he is at scoring the basketball, he's also equally bought into a system. And he doesn't usually like to go against the grain and operating out of that unless there's like significant injury to where he has to put up 25 to 30 shots. We talked about how many times he's scored 40, 50, 60 points and how many times he's taken over 25 shots in a game.
Yeah.
And over the course of his career, that number will be a lot lower than most people expect. But that's because he's so bought into a system and playing basketball the right way. You hear him say it all the time in his answers. Just want to play the right way.
Doesn't step on the game.
It doesn't step on the game. He respects the game. He respects the process too much. And you can say that comes with flaws. But that's also why he's not the only person on the team to be putting the ball in the basket to the extent in which you expect him to.
Yeah, and I mean, I've said it over. Kevin Durant's been the best player on this basketball team all year. Year, but this is a big stretch, and we need him. We absolutely need him to step up and to step up big in these moments. And I know he doesn't like to step on the system. This team doesn't have a fucking system, dude. This team doesn't have like you talk about. There's no Kevin Durant post touches. There's no flow to this offense. I don't need Cody to be a shot chucker. I need him to be an enforcer on the offensive end, which, like you said, and I agreed with you. He's one of the greatest to ever do that, even if he doesn't step on the game. I'm not asking him to chuck up 35 shots. I need a little bit more from him than I've seen recently. Again, big picture this whole season. I don't think he's really lost that much of a step. I still think he's one of the best scorers in the game, and I think he's the greatest scorer of all time. This last couple of stretches, the last couple of games from him, I mean, we saw him score 35 against Memphis.
He knocked down 7 threes in that game.
Yeah, right? And that was a game where he went like 2 for something from
he was like
mid-range,
2 for 10 from
which is
2.
crazy. But the standard is really high for him. Like really, really high for him. Same thing with Devin Booker. He's been great as a playmaker as of late. He's had really low lows with the turnovers, but 13 assists, 11 assists, right? Somebody who's been really dishing the rock. But at the same time, in a game like tonight where you're starting Colin Gillespie, Ryan Dunn, Nick Richards.
Put the ball in the bucket for sure.
And for some reason, 100%. Toronto has been a team that has given Book some fits and some problems on the offensive end.
Like we talked about, he struggles. Not saying that he's not effective because we've seen him go against the grain and be great. Look at that series against the Clippers, a team that has that same type of makeup defensively with better personnel that year in particular. Just a bunch of guys with size and athleticism that can throw different bodies at him, give him different looks.
Yeah.
That's something that he struggles with at times.
Over 230 of you in here on a Monday night getting ready for Suns Raptors. My Lord, you are all psychos and sickos. Well, we're psychos and sickos together. Speaking of, it's time for our pregame picks.
Yo.
Time for the pregame prick. That's me. Hey, guys. Pregame prick here, and our pregame picks is brought to you by Bet365. Of course, download Bet365 app. Use code PHNX365 when you sign up, you prick, and find out why, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. You must be 21 plus and physically located in AZ. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP, text NEXT STEP to 53342, or visit problemgambling.az.gov. Let's start with Espo's bet. Let's see what he's going with tonight. He's going Cody 30. No, that's not right. It's a 2-leg parlay that he put in there, Noah. He messaged in afterwards because he only screenshotted one leg. Because Cody 30 plus points is not plus 1,200.
Ain't no way.
It's Cody 30 plus points and Book 35 plus points. That makes a little bit more sense. It's okay. Maybe Espo slid Noah $5 extra because he knew that it was Heritage Day for him and said, give me the nice odds. Let's see if we can get this past the prick over here. And I said, no
you got
chance.
Your dad laughing in the chat.
Yeah, I mean, that's the first for everything, right? Steven, what do you have for your pregame prick? I got you laughing. That's the real first. And you put AJ Lawson in a parlay. That's also a first.
Man, you better listen to me. I got the Suns winning this game. I know that's a reach. I know that's a stretch. But I also have both teams scoring 100 points in this game. I have the Suns scoring 110 points or less in this one, which aligns with the defense that we talked about from the Raptors over the last couple of weeks. They've been giving up about 104, 105 points on average over the last 2 weeks. And then next after that, AJ Lawson, you mentioned him. He has, AJ Lawson, a lot of people might not know him. Last couple of games, he's been playing more for the Raptors. 75 points through 3 games a week or so ago. Tied the most in Raptors history with players like Jalen Rose for the most points through a 3-game stretch.
75 points is the most points
75 through a 3-game stretch for a reserve.
For a reserve. Okay, off the bench. I was about to say, I'm like, I know somebody else.
Off the bench.
Yeah.
Off the bench, yeah.
Okay.
So he's a laser. He gets it done from deep, and he can get hot. He fits the description for the type of player that goes off against the Suns, especially as a reserve player. So keep an eye on him. And then last one, Tyus Jones. We talked about his 3-point shooting. I think naturally with the injuries, he should play more minutes. I see him knocking down at least 1 3 in this game, all for plus 4,000.
I mean, I like you're walking a tightrope with both teams to score 100 points, but Suns don't score 110 and win.
For sure.
So you need both teams to go in that 100 to 110 range. Yep. So you're walking a little bit of a tightrope there. I like your 3-pointer aspect of it. This is what I call the Phoenix Suns defensive effort special. Let's take a look at my boosted 3-leg parlay. Thanks to our friends over at Bet365. It's all Raptors players, and it's all Raptors 3-point players. Ochai Agbaji over 1.5 3-pointers made. Emmanuel Quickly over 2.5 3-pointers made. Scotty Barnes over half of a 3-pointer made. All parlay. And I'll tell you what, those are the only 3 Raptors players at the time that I put my bet down that I could get 3-point lines on.
For sure.
So plus 683 boosted. I mean, listen, I think the Suns win this game. I think they make it so damn difficult, and I think those threes are going to rain. Knights 23 with a $4.99 super chat. Thank you, Knights. Says, I know it's out of their norm, but either Cody or Booker needs to step up and become a leader for this playoff push. Well, we might have to have more of that leader talk, because I think there's a lot of gray area, middle ground, intangible things that come from being a quote-unquote leader. But we have seen this team get more vocal as of late with each other, between Bud and KD, right? Or with the other team as well. There's been a lot of talking. If you had to pick 2 players tonight from opposite teams to jaw and get into it, Steven, who are you putting your money on? Because I feel like Mason Plumlee's the easy first-round draft pick for the Suns.
Well, Scotty Barnes, first
Scotty
of all,
does like to talk.
That boy Scotty does not stop talking. I love that about him, because he's always locked in. He's a player not unlike Cade Cunningham that's guarding the best player on the other team more often than not and going at them on the other end of the court. So I enjoy watching Scotty. He's going to be talking for sure. I think he was talking in that game in Toronto, actually.
Of course he was.
And Devin Booker.
Yeah.
Devin Booker.
Yeah, Book does like to talk. I mean, Book versus the Raptors is always great, of course. They're
and that's my
on the road
for
right
that.
now.
Yep.
I think Mason Plumlee would definitely try to fight Scotty Barnes. For sure. I feel like that's definitely something that's going to happen. Katie's been talking a lot too. And don't underestimate the grit, the hustle of Colin Gillespie, first in the gym, last out kind of guy. You know what I mean? All right, guys, we appreciate every single one of you. Kev, who's actually at the Suns game right now, said $2 glizzies were in hand and still watching PHNX Suns pregame. That is a true psycho.
That's a psycho and sicko personified.
Being at the arena, we appreciate every single one of you who's in here. Of course, we will be back for our post-game show. Of course, right here on PHNX Sports. Hit that subscribe button. Hit that like button. You can follow along with us throughout the game at PHNX_Suns on social media. Gerald will be calling in live from PHNX Arena. Of course, after the game, we'll get everybody's opinions on what will sure to be a walk in the park, an easy game. We're surely all going to feel good after this one, right? Well, probably not. But either way, we'll be here for you.
We all silly like the mayor.